Hola, tudo bem? Hello, noble ones. So today we are checking out Language Simp again upon great requests among you. And after having reviewed the Italian one, as you can see, I'll put a link in the description below, I will be checking out Language Review Portuguese. I'm so excited about this. And as you can see, I've got green for the flag, and I've got a little blue here. Now you might be asking, why not yellow, you muppet? Well, they've got the blue planet in the middle of the flag. Crying out loud. It's gonna be great. Obrigado. Let's go.
Bom dia e bem-vindo ao meu canal. Bom dia e bem-vindo ao meu canal. Tudo jóia? Hoje vamos falar de português, otherwise formerly known as Portuguese, Spicy Spanish, Brazilian, or Mozambican.
Spicy Spanish. I mean...
This is the 5th episode of Language Review, a series where I go through the languages of...
Oh, he's got Chinese. My gosh, I'm so gonna do Chinese next. Or which one should I do next? I'll let you choose. Should we do Chinese? Should we do French? Or should we do Spanish? I don't know anything about Russian, so I mean, for now, I'd rather do one of these. You choose in the comments.
Of the world and review them, sort of like a film critic or a video game reviewer, but
Yeah.
for languages, specifically from the perspective of a language learner. I'll discuss who speaks them, their grammar, their difficulty, and tons of other stuff before finally giving them an official Language Simp certified
Wonderful.
rating on the Simp scale.
Come on, Portuguese gotta be Giga Chad. Come on.
If you enjoy this video, let me know in the comments which language you'd like me to review next, and without further ado, vamos lá. Why would I learn Portuguese when I could just learn Spanish? They're like the same language. Não é verdade, para com isso. This might start World War III and IV in the comments, but in the same way that Ronaldo is better than Messi, Portuguese is better than Spanish.
Wow.
You should study Portuguese because it's really spicy, and learning it will unlock tons of DLC, as there are 260 million NPCs who speak
Yeah.
it on 5 continents.
Indeed.
But when you think of who speaks Portuguese, there is really one giant and beautiful country with the coolest flag in the world that immediately comes to mind. And I think you all know which country I'm talking about. Mozambique. Portuguese is pretty common in Africa, and not just in
True,
Mozambique.
true.
It's also spoken in Guinea-Bissau, Angola,
Yeah.
Equatorial Guinea, and on a few teeny-weeny little islands that I couldn't name to save my life. But
Isn't that crazy? Like how it is very impressive how multilingual Africans tend to be. Because in my experience, even when I was living in the UK, you run into like African people, and then you start communicating in English. Then, depending on where they're from, we switch to French, or sometimes they would know Portuguese. I don't, so I couldn't test that one. Once I ran into an Ethiopian man, and his Italian was pretty decent. So that's actually pretty cool. And then they have their own languages.
did you know that Portuguese is also an official language of communist China? I'm not even trolling.
I had no idea.
It's spoken in the Chinese Special Administrative Region of Macau, or as I like to call
Well,
it,
sure.
Communist Casino Island. Sadly, port speakers there are rapidly dying off, and there will soon be more casinos there than lusophones.
Oh, no.
Lusophone, that's the linguistic term for someone who speaks Portuguese for some reason. Really, when we think of this language, one incredibly influential and powerful country with rich history and kind
So wait, Lusophone is someone who speaks Portuguese. Anglophone is someone who speaks English. What's someone who speaks Italian? Pastaphone?
people really does come to the top of all of our minds.
Portugal.
Wait, what is that big blob sticking out of Mexico? Okay, isso. Hey, Brasil, o país mais bonito do mundo. God, I love Brazil so
Me
much.
too, me too.
Oh, and I guess some people also speak it in Portugal. Why is Portuguese spoken in all these different places? I don't get it. Well, it all starts at the Big Bang, but I'll give you the short version. So the Roman Empire happened, and they spread the Latin language over to the Iberian Peninsula.
Yes.
Then Spain and Portugal somehow split like an egg. Latin evolved like a Pokemon into Portuguese. Then a bunch of colonizers got on boats and did some questionable things in South America, Africa, and Asia. Some time passed, Bolsonaro got elected, and now you have modern Portuguese. But modern Portuguese is very different depending on where you go.
Yep.
If you're ever on a layover in Portugal, you'll notice that the people there speak fast with a very closed mouth, like
Yeah.
Olá, sou português de Portugal. Eu sou de Portugal. It's like they have a gerbile or a Portuguese
Well, if you are Portuguese, let me know if that was accurate.
man-o'-war jellyfish thingy in their mouth. Some of the language overlords even claim that European Portuguese sounds a lot like Russian, but
Language overlords. I gotta say, the one time I did listen to European Portuguese, it did give me that impression. Not the whole time, but a couple of times as I was listening, I was like, I don't know why that sounded a bit like Russian. So I did get that feel. But I will be testing European Portuguese and see how difficult it is to learn, since I've recently done the Brazilian Portuguese version of this.
But as a speaker of both of those languages, I just don't see it. But caralho, mano, Brazilian Portuguese is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life. When I hear a Brazilian speak, it feels like I'm teleported to the top of Christ the Redeemer, and a bunch of tiny capybara angels grab me and fly me into the clouds and serve me unlimited feijoada until I explode and release green and yellow confetti onto the streets of Rio de Janeiro. There are a ton of regional accents in Brazil, but in general, Brazilian Portuguese sounds open, expressive, sometimes goofy, and just downright adorable.
To me, it's very musical. I said that already in the video where I tried to learn it a little bit that I posted a couple of days ago. But to me, Brazilian Portuguese specifically has it has a musicality, and it does sound like they're singing. Now, I know that Portuguese speakers tend to say that about us Italians, but I can't hear it in my own language, of course, but I do hear it in theirs.
They sound like, oi, irmão, eu falo português do Brasil, brigadão. I'm a certified simp for the noises they make with their mouths, and I plan on permanently moving to a favela soon for full immersion to master the language and shock people on camera. Don't worry though, I won't go get killed or robbed. Y'all probably know that I got robbed last year in Baguette Land and recently in the United States, and as if real-life robbery wasn't enough, the same day, coincidentally, criminals were also trying to gain access to my bank account logins. To say it's been an unsettling few days is an understatement, and I have no idea how they got my information. It's just really a shame how monolingual betas and large corporations can so easily...
I think this is a connection to a sponsor.
...buy and sell our personal data online these days. That's why I trust...
Boom, hey, that was smooth. That was smooth, and incognito is cool. I have incognito too. Now back to Porch of Geese.
Now let's talk about the alphabet. For the longest time, Portuguese was written in a discount version of the American alphabet with 23 letters instead of the naturally occurring 26 found in nature. However, in the late 2000s, the language overlords dropped new DLC into Portuguese, officially introducing the missing K, W, and Y into the alphabet.
We should introduce the K in Italian. Like, I'm all for tradition. I'm all for, like, we spell it CH, but pronounce it like a K. What have you, but objectively speaking, all we would need is swap the CH for the K, and it would be so much easier for foreigners to learn, and at the end of the day, that's the sound we make, so I'm all for it.
Effectively copying us and making it the same as our system. That's a crazy precedent to set. Adding new letters to a lingo? Come on, Lula and whoever the dictator or king of Portugal or whatever is, y'all need the multi-ocular O. Replace all your vowels with the O with 10 eyes, and tourism will increase exponentially. Portuguese uses a bunch of basic accent markers that are pretty standard in Romance language.
Yeah, diacritics. So they have, we have, in Italian, we have this, the acute and grave, I think you say it in English, but we don't really use like this, the one like this, like it's called dieresi, I think in Italian, whatever. We don't really use those. I noticed a bunch in Romanian, which made it a little confusing.
But they also have the same iconic unibrow that Spanish has. But in Spanish, the unibrow only goes on the N, while in Portuguese, the unibrow is biromantic and can be found snuggling on top of both the A and the O. Wow. And these unibrows, combined with the rest of the letters, make Brazilian sound so good that my legs shake and my jacked arms twitch when I hear it. Most of the alphabet is pronounced how you'd think it is, but some of the letters have gone spring break hog wild. The R is very often pronounced as an H.
I did notice that, and I thought it was a region variety, but I was corrected by Brazilians telling me, no, that's just how you pronounce it at the beginning of words, and like double, I suppose. Yeah, that was really surprising. So it's Rio de Janeiro, not Rio de Janeiro, I think.
In the word carro. I grew up with a Brazilian named Lohan, and my little pea-brain at the time could not comprehend why we weren't calling him Lauren. The L is also quirky because it's often pronounced as a W, like in the word legal. Well, it looks like it should be pronounced legal, but it's actually legal.
Legal. It's interesting because it kind of reminds me of the dark L in like some London, with some London speakers. Zelda.
Another example is Brasil. However, the cutest noises by far that come out of Brazilians is the way that they pronounce the DE at the end of words, like in onde, verdade, Saúde.
I like that.
GGG. It just makes me feel warm and tingly. And they don't make that noise in Portugal. Instead, they make silly noises like pronouncing S's at the end of words as an SH sound. So they say Português instead of Portuguese. Wow.
You know what? To me, I could be wrong. So do correct me. Absolutely let me know if you're from Portugal. Would that be a full-on sh, or would it be a retracted S? So a sh, the sound in between the frontal s and the actual sh. So you have s, sh, sh, if you can tell the difference. And in Mandarin, for example, you have all three, the S, the X, and the SH. So I wonder if they do they say, because they have that sound in Greek, they have that sound in Madrid Spanish, the sh sound, and even in some accents in Italy, and definitely was the original sound, the retracted S, was the way the S was pronounced in classical Latin. So I'm wondering, is it a retracted or is it a full-on sh? So do you say Português or do you say Português? That's my question for you.
So cool. SMH my head. The language also has a ton of nasal sounds.
Yeah.
It's like French phonology and Spanish vocab met on Tinder, produced an offspring and named him João. And you're thrown
Yeah.
right into it from the very beginning. Say goodbye to the simple Spanish si and say hello to the elegant and sophisticated sim. I'd explain how to make that noise, but after years of speaking baguette surrender protest language, it's just something I do automatically. In total, there are a dozen nasal sounds represented by the unibrowed O and A, as well as a bunch of letter pairs. So if you want to learn Port, get ready to make a lot of and noises. They sound sus in isolation, but in normal words, I promise they're enchanting. Speaking of words, Portuguese vocab is super based and sigma-pilled. Over 90% of Portuguese words have a Spanish counterfeit version. Mexico just straight up stole most of them, like the words for food, ugly, and life. While other ones were just photoshopped or AI generated to look a little different, like eyes, city, and dark.
He does
the
have a
Spanish
point.
muy is so boring, but I'm overwhelmed with testosterone and estrogen when I say muito. And that's why I call Portuguese spicy Spanish. It's like they took the Spanish words and just dumped a gallon of Carolina Reaper hot sauce on them.
Okay, let me say this very quickly. So I really like Portuguese myself. I love the Brazilian variety. I still have to expose myself to the European one a bit more to actually have an opinion, but up to this point, I freaking love it. But I also love Spanish. So I hate it when some people are like, oh, if you're a Spanish speaker, you love Spanish, then you have to call Portuguese ugly Spanish. That pisses me off because no, I think it sounds great. Of course, anyone can have their own opinion, blah, 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 but you know what I mean? And at the same time, yeah, I mean, you can love Portuguese without dissing Spanish, although he's doing it for this is all tongue-in-cheek, this is sarcasm, of course. But I'm saying I have seen people do that. It's like you've got to choose. It's similar with Japanese and Mandarin. Like you love Japanese, oh, Mandarin. And then you love Chinese, no, Japanese. I don't like, can you not love? I love both. I love both. I like both. Let's go.
Sometimes Portuguese can get a little unhinged though. Like they use numbers to denote the days. Monday is literally called second market. Tuesday is third market, and so on until they break the convention for Saturday and Sunday. But this is so confusing to me because Monday is called the second one? There's no first one? And
why would that be weird though for you? Because in English you say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You do begin counting from Sunday. In Italian we do begin from Monday. So for me this could be a little confusing because to me it's lunedì, martedì, mercoledì. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But for an Anglophone speaker, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is what you do anyways. So to you, Monday 2nd, not a big deal, right?
And why are they calling them markets? But hands down, my favorite thing about this language is the way they say the names of social media apps. Snapchat becomes a snappy chat. Instagram is Instagram. But the best is Facebook. If I were the Zug, I would move the Facebook headquarters to Minas Gerais. Also, on Brazilian social media, you'll notice that they virtually laugh very differently than the rest of the world. Instead of the default ha 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 or ja 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 ja, they just spam the letter K like absolute mad lads. The spice and quirked up energy spreads to other parts of the language as well. The definite articles, and for noobs that means the word the, are O and ah, which are very confusing to my big American brain since we use the word ah as an indefinite article.
Well, yeah,
so when
I get
see a menina written, my brain thinks that I'm reading a girl, and it takes a while for my Brazilian...
That's so interesting. For me, it's not a problem, and let me tell you why. Because in Italian, you have la and il, lo, right? and then all the plural ones. But in Sicilian, la is reduced to a oftentimes. That's how we do it. That's how we do the feminine, singular, definite article in my Sicilian dialect, language, whatever you want to call it, dialect, language. La bambina, the little girl, would be abicirida in Sicilian. So yeah, we do that, exactly. It's just that instead of o, we change il to u. So you would in Sicilian. So il pane, bread, or the bread, would be u pane in Sicilian. So it's very similar to Portuguese, actually. To me, it's like, yeah, sure, I can run with that.
Soul to catch up and understand it as the girl. There are also quite a few conjugations, and each verb has over 50 different forms as a result. But don't worry, they are pretty regular, minus the most common and important ones, like to be, to go, to come, and to see. Filho da p. There are a bajillion contractions similar to French, 74 in total if I'm counting them correctly, but you'll get used to them over time. Eu juro pela vida do Bolsonaro. The subject pronouns are especially gnarly. I love how I is eu, which sounds like how we express disgust here in Freedom Land. The word for you is você, which just has a certain elegance to it. It's even better than the Russian Tui. And finally, to say...
And I think você, I was told, is mostly used in Brazil. I don't think they use it as much in Portugal.
They usually use the expression a gente, which literally means
the people. Oh, that's nice.
I think that brings a happy, collectivist, and communist feel to the language. No wonder it's spoken on Bing Chiling Casino Island. Now it's time to talk about shock factor. How will Portuguese speakers react to you speaking their language? Well, the truth is, not a lot of foreigners learn Port. Brazil is swallowed both geographically and linguistically by Mexican-speaking countries, as well as Fishanese-speaking fish. So when someone starts learning Portuguese, especially in American, that means they firmly resisted the strong propaganda pushing us to learn Mexican, and they instead chose to narrow in on Brazil for one reason or another. So they're grateful, even if you only know a little bit, and they will absolutely tolerate any mistakes, even if they're drastic, like saying pau instead of pão. I can promise you that if you go to Brazil and you whip out even a half-broken sentence in Port, they will do backflips, make you way more feijoada than you can eat, and even let you pet their capybaras. Oh, and if you don't know what to say to a Brazilian, just look them in the eyes and say, "O Bolsonaro é muito gostoso." And I can promise you, you'll at least provoke some sort of reaction. When I was an engineer, I said that line to my boss's boss and my boss's boss's wife, who are both from Brazil, and they hated it. So now it's time to give Portuguese an official language Simp certified rating on the Simp scale. On a scale of Dogwater to Giga Chad, I place Portuguese confidently and securely in the Giga Chad tier. There's just something about it, man. It's gorgeous, it's often silly yet academic when it needs to be. It's not a difficult language. Brazilians are wonderful and kind. Portugal exists, and it's just a ton of fun to learn. If you enjoyed this video, consider supporting me on Patreon, where I make language learning tips and tricks videos. And maybe give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram. Let me know which language I should review next, and never forget, 7-1.
So, oh my gosh, the ending.
Newsflash, beta male.
The ending is great. Yeah, this channel is great. It's great. You know what? You know why this channel is funny as hell? This channel is really funny because he has got really good sarcasm. The jokes are great. I think the Italian episode still takes the cake. I mean, it's up to this point, Italian episode is #1, and I'm gonna put the Brazilian Portuguese, episode at #2, but that's because I've only watched 2. So next, you choose which one we're gonna do, and then we'll put it on a scale. We'll do that. But right now, the Italian one was the funniest. Maybe hit me the most because I understand Italian. But I gotta say that he's really good at it because he's got the sarcasm. There's really good. The jokes are on point. But then he has got the language knowledge, which makes it even more funny because the jokes are like, oh yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, that's how it is. Or like it's good. It's good. Language Simp always #1. Very, very fun. But thank you for watching to all of you, and I will see you tomorrow for the next video. Bye. Boom.